Hot spots, cold spots in your house. When you go from one room on one side of the house to another room on another side of the house, do you notice a huge temperature difference? Well, it's one of the biggest problems we have with heating and air conditioning. And we're going to talk about two of the biggest reasons today as to what causes those hot spots and cold spots in your house. You have a bathroom that you walk into that is absolutely freezing, but then you go into your bedroom and it feels like it's 5-10 degrees difference. We're going to talk about the two biggest reasons today that cause that. Hey, and if you like the videos that we're providing, go ahead and make sure you click the subscribe button down below. Also, smash that like button that you like this video if it was educational for you. And then turn on your notifications. That's a little bell at the top that says all. And this way, anything that we provide on ProCalcs University, you're going to get a notification if you want to go and take a look at it and watch it. All right, so here we go. Hot spots and cold spots in your home. How do you solve it? All right, so hot and cold spots. What causes these in your home? And the two biggest things that we're going to talk about today, and there's a lot of little things that can cause this, but the two biggest reasons that we have hot and cold spots in our house is one, the air conditioning system is oversized. And when I say oversized, it's because most likely your HVAC company who does the installation and the service and repairs, or probably or potentially an uneducated design company like what we do, or believe it or not, and I've worked with these folks, even mechanical engineers tend to oversize equipment for whatever reason. I've dealt with quite a few mechanical engineers, and you think, okay, well, yeah, they should be 10 times more brilliant than me, and in their own ways they are. But some of the ones that I've worked with, when I even ask them, is they're always adding in this fluff because they're more worried that somebody's not going to have enough air conditioning than having too much. And that's probably the least of our worries when it comes to air conditioning. But if you properly size it and you get the right information from the builder or the architect doing it, you can design it properly so that you don't have the hot and cold spots, as long as it's installed properly. But we're going to talk about that today. And the second reason that we have, the second big reason that we have hot and cold spots in our houses is because of lack of returns in the rooms that have doors that will close them off from the rest of the house. So there's three different types of returns. We're going to talk about those three different types of returns today. But having no return in them is definitely going to cause that room, when the door is closed, it's going to cause that room to be hotter than anywhere else in the house, most likely, unless there's other bigger issues in those other rooms. So those are the two things that we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to show you a little thing on a software that we use called RightSoft. We drew up a little house, and I kind of made a makeshift design to kind of show you, to help you visualize when we're talking about returns and the oversized systems, to help you be able to visualize what we're talking about. Now, I did a podcast Wednesday. If you go to procalcsuniversity.com, we have all of our podcasts up there. You can also go to procalcs.net/podcasts with an S, and you can see it directly on there. And we talked about hot and cold spots, but I realized that there are some visual things that may help people to be able to better understand what we're going to be talking about. And I'm going to show you that here in just a few minutes. So procalcsuniversity.com, you can listen to all the podcasts. We usually have them posted up every Wednesday about 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we're usually following up with a YouTube video that matches with the podcast. So let's go ahead and take a look at a house that we've been playing around with to see what causes these hot and cold spots. Okay, so here we have our house that we drew up in our RightSoft software to give you a better visual of hot and cold spots. So you can see over here, we got our little guy, angel guy, making snow angels in the room because it's just so cold. You walk in there, you got to put a jacket on or a sweater because it's just so cold. And you walk out of the house, out of the room, and you're going to go over to the family room. And from the time that you start walking through here, you start getting hotter and hotter, and you take off your jacket and you take off your hat and you take off, and you get all the way to this family room. You're like, oh my gosh, why is it so much hotter in this room than the other side? And we're going to talk about that. Now, right here, you can see we kind of drew up just a quick makeshift duct system, air conditioner here with the ductwork. This by no means is properly designed duct system. So just take that right off your list of right now where people pointing at it go, oh, that's a horrible duct system. You're right. It is. It is not the way it should be. So first, when we have an air conditioning system that is too large, and when I say too large, it means, there's a right size of an air conditioning system where it needs to run long enough. One, in the humid climates, it needs to run long enough to be able to reduce the humidity. So every time the air goes through the air handler or the component that's inside, and it goes through that little evaporator coil, it's pulling out heat and it's pulling out moisture. That's why you have the drain that goes outside. And if you oversize the system blows so much cold air into the house so quickly, or I should say, it removes heat so quickly with the vast amount of air it's running through and dumps it back into the house. It drops the temperature so quickly that the thermostat is satisfied. So let's say you've set the thermostat at 75, and maybe the thermostat will be located like right around here, maybe on this wall or this wall. This thermostat should always be located as close as possible to the main return. Okay, so we put it in this area, and the thermostat says, hey, you want it at 75, the air conditioner's come on, it's blown so much, taken so much heat out, blown so much cooler air back in, I'm done, I'm satisfied. But the problem, because it's so oversized, is here's your returns right here. Okay, so that's where the air is being pulled into the air conditioning system. Now, believe it or not, we'll have another video on this. Believe it or not, returns don't have as much suction power as some people think. Once you go, if you have a main return like this, I want you to take a piece of paper and see how far away you can take that piece of paper before it gets pulled in to the return. And you're going to find 16, 18 inches typically before that piece of paper just has no suction at all and it just falls. So you get a visual of that. So it's not more so of I'm going to create this giant vacuum in the return. And again, we'll talk about that in a different video. So returns are over here. So what's happening is when the air conditioner turns on, this pulls air in to the ducts and back into the air conditioning system, where it then goes through the evaporator coil, removes the heat, removes the humidity, and then blows it all back out into these supply ducts. Okay, so we got really good distribution, or fairly good distribution of supply. So whatever air I'm pulling in here, I bring in through here, I condition it, and I blow it back out. All right. Well, your returns are really close to this master bedroom. Okay, and you got a nice return in the master bedroom as well. We're going to talk about those in a minute. So what's happening is, just think about this logically, common sense wise. The air that is right around here, okay, is going to get into this return through the air conditioner, back out through the supply ducts more times than the air all the way over here. So if I'm exchanging the air, and that's just for numbers, I mean, I'm sure there's a mathematical formula we can do, but let's say the air exchanges 20 times from this area over here. But because this air over here has so far to travel before it gets pulled into here, for it to remove the moisture and drop and remove the heat so that the temperature is cool, what's going to happen is, yeah, I'm pulling air from here and I'm conditioning it and I'm dumping out here, but air conditioning is not just about pulling the heat out of that and just dumping cold air into another. You have to, in the rooms, you have to be able to remove the heat and humidity that's in that room. Otherwise, you're just dumping cool air on top of the hot, humid air. And it gets a little better, but what happens is then the temperature is still higher and the humidity is still higher as well. We got to pull that air out. And if we're exchanging it 20 times over here, but we're only exchanging it, I don't know, not even 5 times over here, you're not going to have as much moisture removal and removal of heat in the air here. Just think about it. Air conditioning is what we're doing is we're calculating how much heat is being gained or lost from these outside windows and doors. Okay, that's what air conditioning is. Okay, we have heat that's being coming through or losing. We have heat that's being generated in the house, and air conditioning's job is to take that unwanted heat from inside and dump it outside. So if we have a room like this that's got 3 walls, a garage, all these windows, we are generating a lot of heat in that home. We're going to be a lot of heat, and depending on how bad these windows are, if these are single pane jalousie windows, oh my gosh, you're going to have a lot of heat coming into this room. So we have to be able to pull that heat and humidity out, get it into the air conditioning system, remove that heat and humidity, and get it back into that room. Well, what will happen with the oversized is, because now with the oversized system, we're circulating this like 20 times, massive volumes of air. But what we need to be able to do is size it properly so that we're slowing the system down. And yeah, we may still get 20 over here, but because we've slowed the system down, we're giving it more time for us to get closer to 10 to 15 times of air circulation back over in these rooms, which allows it to be able to remove the humidity and moisture much quicker. In non-humid climates, obviously humidity is not an issue, but removing the heat from that room is. So even if you're in Arizona, if you massively oversize it, the problem is it's going to turn on to, and you're going to have huge hot spots. No humidity, but you're going to have huge hot spots in the house, and you have to avoid those. So, everybody says bigger is better in air conditioning, at least a lot of homeowners, and believe it or not, even some professional people. But you have to size it properly. And that's what a good professional load and energy calc company like ProCalcs, which is our main company, that's what we're about. We have no monetary value in what the outcome is. You get an air conditioning company that's going to size this for you. And I'm speaking from experience. I'm not speaking from just guessing. I've been out in this industry for 30 plus years. I've been from working for other people to having my own air conditioning company to working for 2 of the biggest manufacturers of air conditioning in the world. And I've seen this hundreds and hundreds of times where people are just going in these HVAC companies and they're sizing based on square footage, or they're just looking at what air conditioning system was there and they're automatically sizing it for the same. So, it had a 3.5 ton. Let's put a 3.5 ton back. Well, what do? We ask the customer. The customer says, yeah, air conditioner was working fine. Well, that was the air conditioner that was installed 15 years ago. Technology is different. Airflow is different. Concepts are different. There's so much different. Refrigerant's different. So you can't just assume that we're going to size it exactly the same. We need to do a load calculation. Maybe since they had the air conditioner installed the first time, maybe they've upgraded their windows, they've upgraded the insulation, maybe they've wall value, maybe they upgraded their appliances so they have more energy efficient appliances. All of these things matter. And if you listen to the last podcast that we did on ProCalcs, ProCalcsUniversity.com, we'll talk about why load calcs are so important on the podcast. And I'm going to do another YouTube video on this probably later on next week, so you can see there. We have a little breakdown of it, so you can see as I change things on the home, you'll be able to see every little thing and how much it's affected by making just minor changes. And I mean minor changes, such as just changing the color of the roof makes a difference. So oversizing the air conditioning system is one of the biggest reasons that you have hot and cold spots in your house. Okay. And the second biggest issue is returns. So we talked about these returns over here, and notice that we have this return in the bedroom because there's going to be a door here on the master bedroom. So when that door closes, I'm not able to get the ability of these returns to pull that air out of the room. And that's why in most states, it's mandatory that a return be put in a room that has a door that can be closed off. Now, everybody knows about the little undercuts under the doors, right? Well, years ago, that was thought to be plumbing. We undercut that door, we allow that airflow. And if you don't have a return in your house, and even if you do, go ahead and turn the air conditioner on, close that door, and put your hand underneath the door. You're going to feel that rush of air coming through there. That's the room being positively pressurized with the supply air and pushing that air out. And that's what you're going to feel there. But the problem is if we're not getting enough of that air out, we're not getting that circulation that we need. Okay? Because what we need to be able to do in these rooms is we need to be able to mix the cooler air, the 50 to 55 degree air that's coming out of the supplies. So this right here, supply duct, is going to be blowing out 50 to 55 degree air if we're air conditioning. Okay. And what it's going to do is it's going to hit these walls and it's going to do what's called wall washing. So we have the heat penetrating these walls and windows. And what we're trying to do is as that heat penetrates, we want to take this cooler air, we want to take this cooler air and we want to mix it with the warmer air coming through the walls and windows by heat loss, heat gain. So when we mix that, then what we're doing is by force, we're circulating and pulling that air back around. We're creating a circular motion, okay? And then what we're doing is we're forcing it back into the return, which the return is also pulling that air, bringing it back into the system, conditioning it, removing the heat, removing the humidity, and then blowing it back into the room. So here you notice that we have a very short cycle of air. We pull it in really close, we get it through the air conditioning system, we remove the heat, humidity, and we blow it back into the room. So we have a great circulation. So you're going to find this room, if it's installed properly and if the right dampers, another topic for another conversation, you got to stay tuned for that one, that we're going to have the right amount of air going in, we're going to have the right amount of air being pulled out, and we're going to have a really good. So if you set this thermostat at 75 degrees, you're going to find that this room here is, if it's designed properly, the right amount of CFMs going in and coming out, you're going to find that that room stays pretty close to 75 degrees. Okay. But look about over here. Okay. Now I don't have another bedroom. I have the living room. So everything is wide open. But let's say this family room had a door here. That's just for design reasons. Let's go just plop a door right in there. Okay. So now we got a door. That door closes off. Let's put one over here in this bedroom too. There we go. Now we got our door in there too, so we can visually see. So let's say we have this family room, we have a door here. So when I close that door, I have no return except for the undercut. So what's going to happen? I'm going to be blowing in, I'm going to be taking all the air from here, I'm going to be blowing this air into this room. But look at all the massive amount of heat gain I have in this room. How am I going to get that? Okay, so I'm taking this cooler air and I'm mixing it, but I'm not doing anything with it. It's staying in that room. I'm getting rid of a little bit of it, but it's staying in that room. And all I'm doing is I'm continuing to add heat and humidity, continuing to add heat and humidity into this through the windows and the cracks and the walls and the garage and all that stuff. But I'm not removing enough of it. So what's going to happen? That heat builds up, that humidity builds up, and this room is going to be hotter and more humid than any other room in the house. Now, if you go to theprocalcsstore.com, you can find, we have some nice little temperature sensors, little digital temperature sensors that you can pick up and put them in the different rooms and play around with it. Close the door, open the door, check it through different times of the day and the evenings, and you're going to notice a fluctuation in the heat, the temperature, and the humidity in those rooms. So if you had a house like this, you put that temperature sensor up here, you're going to notice a difference in the heat and humidity. You should be, if it's designed properly, the humidity throughout your house should be between 45 and 55 degrees. If it's over 60, you're going to have mold growth. If it's under 40, you're probably in Arizona. Okay, you don't have to worry about it too much. Or it's wintertime out. But heck, even in Florida when it's winter out, I think it's still above 40% humidity. So you got to keep it through there. So throughout your house, you should be able to maintain a temperature. Now, I know a lot of people who like it cooler in the house. And a lot of times, making it cooler is forcing the air conditioning system to run longer. And what did we say happens when it runs longer? It removes more humidity and more heat. But if a system is properly designed, properly sized, and you have the right returns in the rooms, you should be able to keep your thermostat much higher than you expect and still be just as comfortable. Because heat, when we get uncomfortable, what happens is the humidity gets trapped on our skin. And when it gets trapped on our skin, it holds in the heat. So what we need to do is be able to evaporate that moisture on our skin. Okay. And if we can evaporate it, it opens up our pores and allows our body to breathe and keeps us cooler. So the key is to find the right air conditioning system to be able to run long enough, design it to run long enough to pull that humidity out if you're in a humid climate, and to be able to keep your body feeling cooler. That's why when you go to these places like Arizona and what, if I was in Florida at 85, 90 degree day, I had 80, 90% humidity, you feel like death. You go to Arizona, if it was an 85, 90 degree day with the humidity they have there, people would be walking around, loving life like they were on the beach or something. It would be absolutely beautiful. And I've actually been over to Arizona so I know my daughter lives over there. So I know what the feeling is like. It's a completely different heat. So you can get a lot hotter and still feel just as comfortable as you would if you came down to South Florida where, 4,000% bejesus humidity at 85 degrees. But that's what it's about. It's holding in that moisture. So we need to have the right size system, and we need to be able to have returns to be able to help remove that mixed air. Now let's talk about the different types of returns. So right here, you see a return. Now this is set up in the laundry room because there's codes that require in laundry rooms you have to have additional air to pass through if the doors are closed, so that you have that air exchange. Because when the dryer comes on, the dryer is actually pulling air out of the house and pushing outside. I mean, it doesn't just miraculously make its own exhaust, because obviously we have the exhaust that goes out. Everybody's had that issue where it gets blocked up and they got to clean it out. So this is just a little transfer event to help allow air to go through if this laundry room door was closed. But this right here is called a transfer grill. And that is one of the options that you can have when looking for returns. For me, it's my least popular. I don't like them. I have a book I wrote. If you go to procalcs.net, you'll see a book I wrote on there. You don't know what you don't know, HVAC. And in there, we joke around about having that. If you look, you look above the doors and you'll see that there's a grill. And if you go on the other side, you'll see another grill. So you see two grills and the air is passing through those grills. That's a transfer grill. And that's basically like an undercut in the door, but you're making it a little bit bigger. Okay. So what's happening is the air comes out and you're blowing air into an enclosed room. So you're pressurizing it. All right. And the more air you put in there, the greater the pressure of the room, and you're going to push that air out. Now, you always want to make sure your house in general is slightly under positive pressure. And the benefit of that is to not allow, through cracks and crevices, allow air to be sucked in, because then that'll cause the heat and humidity issues even more. So you want a slight positive pressure. So this is called a transfer grill. Goes usually above the door and one on each side, and allows the air to transfer. Basically just an enlarged undercut on a thing. The other one that we have is what's called a jumper duct. And what a jumper duct is, and let me show that to you here. Make sure. Okay, here's our return grill. So we're going to put a return grill right here. And we're going to put a return grill right here. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to connect these. Okay. All right. So what we did is we put a grill in the ceiling. And we ran a duct up into the attic, over top of the door, and into the dining room. We wouldn't typically put a grill like this in the dining room, but we would figure something else out. And this is happening is now when that door is closed, it's giving us the same concept as the transfer grill. because it's only working off of pressure. So we push the air into the room, but we've made a larger area for the air to be forced out. Again, just like the undercut door. There's no guidance on how much. I mean, you can make the duct bigger or smaller, but the duct is going to take what the duct wants to take at that point in time based on outside pressures, temperatures, and things like that. It's only going to take what it wants to take at that point. And at different times in the day, that's going to fluctuate. So the only benefit of this, which this is the next, I guess I put the transfer grill as the least attractive. This is the middle, and then we'll talk about the direct one in a second. But what this does is, unlike the transfer grill, it helps because you have this duct or you have this distance between one grill and the next. It gets rid of that potential noise issue. You know, if you've ever been in a house that has that transfer grill, and I joke around about this in the book, you hear everything, you know, and there's just some things you don't want to hear. All right. So the jumper duct helps. Now, some people don't have attics, so they can't do the jumper ducts. You know, you have a flat roof or whatnot. You have to do the transfer grill. You don't have an option. Okay. The next one that we have is what's called the direct return. And that's what you see here. You have these return grills, and there's a duct that comes off, and this is called a branch. There's a branch that directly leads into a trunk line, main trunk line, that directly goes back to the air conditioning system. That is a direct return. That is the best. As far as I'm concerned, if anybody asks me, that would be the only way I would ever design, if I could. But unfortunately, there's some instances that you can't. You know, there's condos where there's just flat roof after flat roof after flat roof, and you can't. You can't do anything with it, so you don't have an option. But this is the best. And the other part of this is it allows us to actually put we could actually put a damper in this. And what that allows us to do is regulate the amount of return that's coming out of there as well. Again, remember I said, you know, based on pressurization and whatnot, that could change. So what happens is if I only want 200 CFMs going into this room, I want to keep it under a slight positive pressure, I can set the return where the return is pulling about 180, 190 out. And that helps to truly balance those rooms. And a lot of people give me grief about, it's insane putting dampers on returns. You know, I even have manufacturers that I've talked to that say that's insane. Well, they've only say it's insane because that's what they were told. But if you go to a proper test and balance training and course and get certified like I have, they are going to recommend that you put dampers in returns so that you can properly regulate. And that is the best way to be able to keep all of the rooms within 2 to 3 degrees of each other. So whether I'm in this room up here or I'm in this room down here, if I properly design the system, size it, I properly put the right amount of CFMs into the room, the right returns, I install it properly, and it's running the way it should, you should have rooms within 2 to 3 degrees of each other easily. And you know, installation, we're going to do a whole nother video on installation to talk about. But these are the two biggest reasons. There's a lot of other reasons. You listen to the podcast, I talked about a few of them. And we're going to do another video on some of the other reasons that you have hot and cold spots in your house, air infiltration, you know, duct work, a lot of other things. But we're going to do a part 2 to this video to go through that. So I hope today we gave you a lot of great information and help to educate you. If you have questions, go ahead and leave it in the comments down below, or you can go ahead and email us at tom@procalcs.net. Now, we have a couple neat little things at the procalcstore.com that you can go to pick up your thermometers and thermostats with humidity sensors and whatnot in. If you'd like to pick up a copy of the book, you can just go to procalcs.net. Right there on the front, that's the ebook version. But you can also pick up at theprocalcstore.com. You can pick up the paperback version if you want. Ebook version, obviously, a little less expensive, and you can do it on PDF, on your Kindle, on your Nook, or whatever. You can read it through there. So hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and we look forward to seeing you on the next video. Have a great day, everybody.